Let's talk about the coup.
The military announcing a state of emergency.
Myanmar's 10-year journey to democracy appears to be over.
Myanmar is now run by a general after the military deposed the government led by Aung San Suu Kyi. In a bizarre fluke, part of the coup was even caught on video while a fitness instructor did her routine in front of parliament. The armies declared a state of emergency for the next year. They've arrested politicians and shut down social media.
Demonstrations are the largest since the 2007 uprising against the military.
This is the Myanmar military scrapping the democratic experiment.
We asked you to send us your questions about what's going on in Myanmar, so we got you some answers. Let's start by getting everyone up to speed with what's been happening in Myanmar, what used to be called Burma. Essentially, this is about a rivalry between the military and a popular pro-democracy movement led by Aung San Suu Kyi and her NLD party. People in Myanmar were put through almost 50 years of military rule. The country was basically closed off to the world, and international sanctions hurt. There were recurring protests and violent military crackdowns while Aung San Suu Kyi made a name for herself as the face of the opposition. She spent a total of 15 years under house arrest. Her efforts won her a Nobel Peace Prize. Then came what people call Myanmar's experiment with democracy. There was a referendum, attempts at free elections, and foreign investment increased. In 2015, Aung San Suu Kyi and her NLD party won in a landslide.
People now have enjoyed 10 years of much greater freedom in terms of information, media, social media, communication, civil society organizations, and it's difficult to put that back in a bottle.
Which brings us to the coup and your questions. The first one is, why now? Well, the military says it had issues with the parliamentary elections. In November, the NLD won in another landslide, more than 80% of the vote. But the military disputed the results, saying there was fraud. So is there any proof of fraud? Well, no one's saying the vote was perfect.
For instance, in some of the conflict areas, people couldn't vote. But I think equally there can be no doubt that the election results reflected the will of the people in the vast majority of the country.
Which brings us to how the military got so powerful. It's because that power has come in handy for maintaining control. Myanmar borders India, Bangladesh, China, Laos, and Thailand. It's such a diverse country. It has more than 130 ethnic groups, and ethnic divisions only got worse under Japanese and British rule. And then Burma got its independence.
The Burmese national flag was hoisted with all due ceremony.
Power was unexpectedly handed to the majority Burmans, a deal that excluded numerous ethnic minorities.
In the first 10 to 15 years of independence, there were a series of regional rebellions. The military believed it was the only force that could take care of it to hold the country together and make sure that the ethnic Burman majority is on top.
So the military's been in power, but at one point decides to share control and create some kind of democracy. So here's the next question. Why is the military guaranteed 25% of the seats in parliament? Well, it's because in 2008, the military put it in the new constitution. It also kept control of defense, interior ministries, and key positions in the cabinet. But it wasn't just political control. They got into business too. The military created two huge conglomerates made up of local and foreign companies.
The military's economic holdings extends right throughout the economy.
In a sense, the military is a kind of a government within a government, or a government above a government.
Because the military has had that much influence, a lot of people saw Aung San Suu Kyi as a puppet. So this viewer asks, if that's the case, what difference does the coup make? Well, her power was limited. That's true. Suu Kyi was disqualified from being president because her children were born abroad. That was also a clause written into the 2008 Constitution. To get around that, she created the role of state counselor for herself.
The military's got a hair trigger finger, and they were ready to take over at any moment at the slightest sense that their interests were not being met.
And while she was in power, Aung San Suu Kyi didn't really criticize the military, something that was really obvious when it came to the crackdown on the Rohingya. They're a stateless Muslim minority who live in Rakhine State, where the army says it's been carrying out a counter-terrorism offensive. But the UN and others have described it as a campaign of genocide and crimes that include killing children, raping women, burning homes, basically using fear to push out more than 800,000 Rohingya into Bangladesh. And yet, Aung San Suu Kyi defended the military operation.
Genocidal intent cannot be the only hypothesis.
It's obviously cost her her status as an icon of the international community and the human rights community.
Now Suu Kyi is back in detention. So what do the majority of people in Myanmar think about what's going on? Well, some seem to back the military, also known as the Tatmadaw.
There are nationalist groups inside the country who see, the Tatmadaw as a defender of the nation, and in particular, a defender of Buddhism.
But the fact is, Aung San Suu Kyi is by far the most popular.
The people of Myanmar were given the chance to vote in a free and fair election twice. Their hero is Aung San Suu Kyi. The party they want to rule is the NLD.
And they're protesting. These are some of the biggest crowds since 2007. And they're spreading across the country. Some activists started what they call a civil disobedience movement. Honking horns, banging pans, and giving a three-finger salute. But the internet is being periodically shut down, and more people are being arrested.
This is a widening circle of not just the political figures, but writers, journalists, artists, social media people, human rights defenders.
Okay, so why go through all that trouble? Why did the military stage this coup now? Well, the thing about Myanmar's military is it's closed and secretive, so we don't know for sure. But the man who gave the order is Senior General Min Aung Hlaing. One theory is that he and others were worried about plans by the new government to bring in reforms, like changing the constitution. The NLD had tried it before. That failed because of the military's 25% hold on parliament, but it's thought to have angered the military. But there's another theory, and it's that Min Aung Hlaing was acting in his own self-interest.
The current commander-in-chief is on the verge of retirement, and this could very well be a desperate move to salvage his own political career and future. People shouldn't rush to assume that everyone in the military is necessarily happy about this.
We will have a multi-party election and will hand over power to the one who wins in that election.
So which world powers back the military's decision? Well, countries like Russia and China have a close relationship with the military, and both blocked a UN resolution condemning the coup. But pretty much everyone wants Myanmar to get back on track.
I think there are no shortage of friends, no shortage of influences.
The international community has to use whatever techniques that it can to try to encourage a return to some kind of power sharing with the civilians.
The military has said it'll be in power for a year, but the right mix of incentives and pressure could convince the generals to turn things around and reinstate some form of democracy. One thing going for Myanmar is that they've done it before. Things are moving in Myanmar, and that's why Al Jazeera is staying right across what's happening there. So check out our website, aljazeera.com, which has all the latest, and I'll see you next week.